Man, it is very, very hot in Dubai. That's why I'm actually
gonna give you those super crispy, deliciously melted butter pancake background, which everybody is after. They look so good in photos.
There is a common misconception among people and among many photographers that in order for one image to look professional, it is supposed to have a blurry background.
the depth of field mistake. Yes, the depth of field mistake. You may be wondering, why are you calling depth of field a mistake?
This has got very many beginning photographers with the mindset of blaming bad pictures on lack of certain equipment. Many have gone into unnecessary expenditures of buying lenses that they will barely use just because a certain YouTube video or a certain photography expert told them that this particular lens produces blurry background.
Now, let me tell you a story of how this video is coming about. So yesterday I received a picture from a big fan of my work on Instagram, and they wanted me to do some post-production or retouching for them. So they sent me sample images of how they would want their pictures to look like. So I told her, okay, before we can talk about this, I gave her a list of the exact edits I was going to do, and I told her, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do basic skin retouch, I'm going to do image sharpening, I'm going to do color corrections, I'm going to do this. Of course, I made a list of what I was going to do exactly in the edit. So she told me, yes, exactly, this is what I want. So I told her, please share with me some of the images that you want me to edit. So she shares these images. Well, the images were beautifully lit, they were very nicely framed, but they had one big problem. Certain parts were in focus. Of course, the eyes were in focus as always, but the skin had all been blurred out. These particular images were shot at a very wide open aperture, whereby most of the parts were blurred out, and the background, of course, was battery. You know that battery vibe backgrounds usually have.
The pictures were intended to show all those details of the skin, to bring out the jewelry and that, you know, that unevenness of the skin. Now we missed all that because it was blurred out by a wide open aperture. The big question is, do you really need a blurry background in your photos? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much of your photography does require a blurry background? The biggest question among all these is, can an image or a photo be great without a blurry background? Well, I will let images of legendary photographer Dave LaChapelle speak. When you look at the images of Dave LaChapelle, they have a very deep depth of field. In other words, they have focus from the foreground all the way to the background. They have a feel of Renaissance paintings where every detail was looked at as important. The difference between Dave LaChapelle and the blurry backgrounds photographer movement is that he makes the environment part of the story he is telling in his pictures. Let us take a look at another African photographer by the names of Osborne Macharia. When you look at these guys' images, they do not have any of that grab shot kind of vibe that the new trend of photography is trying to take. When you look at them, They are all crisp from the foreground all the way to the background. When you look at his work, he puts a lot of emphasis in the composition, in the lighting, and also in the post-production. That is where he puts most of his energy. In my opinion, he is a true artist. He is depicting exactly what photography is meant to do, telling stories of humanity in the best way that there is, by giving every single detail, but using his imagination to add a twist. In other words, he's not recreating exactly the way nature depicts things, but he's adding his personal vibe, his soul into the whole composition. Look at this work, guys. The background is made part of the whole story. Take away the environment the subject is sitting in, the image looks like it doesn't have soul. In my opinion, what makes photographers' works like Dave LaChapelle, Dave Hill, Anne Librovitzi, Osborne Macharia, Oscar Ntege, and all the other legendary photographers different from the everyday social media hyped photographer, there are only three things. 1. Story, composition, and lighting. Good stories, those ones are everywhere. But composition and lighting, those are things you can learn as a photographer. You can learn composition by making a shift from just looking at things and seeing them. When I say seeing them, I mean you consuming them, breathing them in, taking in every detail and seeing them for what they are, why they are, and how they are. It is about finding and making certain elements of art work hand in hand with one another. How do you use color, shape, light, texture, line, and other elements of art to create something rhythmic that is visually appealing? That's the question that should be running into your head when you're creating these particular images. As an artist, find a way of thinking beyond blurring out the background. In essence, master composition before you give into trends of blurring out backgrounds and escaping the struggles of composition. In my opinion, that is what is going to make you a better artist, a better photographer among the crowd. But wait a minute, are blurry backgrounds bad?
Well, I'm not against people who shoot such battery kind of backgrounds, but you have to know where to use these particular settings. If you're a wedding photographer and you just want to do a quick edit on particular images, definitely a quick using that particular camera setting would do you justice to your images, because you wouldn't need to do a lot of post-production. But if you're doing things like beauty shots where you're going to do high-end retouching, or you're doing something like street photography, you know, or lifestyle kind of photography, I would recommend you shoot at least an aperture of 5.6 and above, so that you get that more focus, more things in focus.
This is my opinion. It is not the mainstream advice you'll find anywhere.
But I would advise that if you're a beginning photographer, first learn how to see things. Okay, this is what I'm saying. You have to buy gear, not because it's being overly hyped by camera manufacturers and affiliate marketers and the people out there enticing you to buy expensive equipment, but buy equipment because you're going to need it for your style. This is why I'm telling you, if you're going to buy any gear, first practice with a kit lens that came with your camera. If you can do very super fine images with your kit lens, trust me, when you get that prime lens, when you get that 70-200, when you get that 85mm that you've always wanted, your images are going to be super nice, like no other,
because your super awesome skills will be backed up with great equipment. You get what I mean?
You know, at the end of the day, when you look at this, when the customer is looking at these particular images, they would say, they won't even ask the kind of camera you're using. They look at the story, they look at how beautiful the lighting is, they look at the composition. Anyhow, that's that for today. If you've really enjoyed this video, I hope to see you in my next video. By the way, if you've not yet subscribed to this channel, take a minute and subscribe right now. Man, it is very hot in Dubai. That's why I'm actually standing in the shade here just to get a little bit of fresh air. But man, I hope to see you next time, and adios.